And now I would ask for our final quick fire, in a way, session, but to take us up to lunch, I would ask, please, our EIT team, who have already been presenting this morning, to come back onto the floor. This is your opportunity, audience, for some points of clarity, some quick questions that you might want to ask of the team. Now, this is a short session because this is the one that lies between you getting out for your lunch. So let's ensure that we keep this brief and to the point. As before, if you have a question, can you please, first of all, let me know where you are, and can you identify your name, your organisation, make your question brief, don't give us an introductory statement, just get us straight to the question, and if you also can identify whom you would like to address the question to, if indeed that does apply. The names of the people who have already been presenting this morning, have been with us, are back here. So please, this is your opportunity now to ask questions of our EIT team. I have one question here. I have a couple over here and one here. Okay, can I go to the gentleman here because he raised his hand first? Yes, sir.
Okay, hello. My name is Eduardo Beltrán from Mondragon Corporation. So it's a question for Martin. So, when you speak about cooperation among KICs, what are you speaking about? So, projects, common funding activities, so specifically for someone who wants to run a KIC, if they want to, what are you expecting in cooperation among the KICs?
Martin, please.
Yeah. So thank you for that question, because I emphasized this very strongly in my opening remarks this morning, because it's very important for us that EIT community really is more than the sum of its individuals. It's best answered by giving you some examples of what type of cooperation we have currently. So you do have cooperation between individual KICs where there is a strong thematic linkage, for example, between EIT Health and EIT Digital on digital well-being, digital health. So it's very natural for them to work together on certain thematic areas where there can be value added from this cooperation. Plus, in the last 2 years, we increasingly launched a number of activities as EIT community as a whole that are for all the innovation communities together with the EIT. Prime example, you have a few meters from here, there is an EIT house where there's a sharing of space, common events, common activities by the EIT community, or this can be on particular topics. For example, education, skill development, human capital. There is a cross-KIC cooperation group that works on these topics. There's another one that works on the regional innovation scheme. So these are the type of examples we very much encourage to take up from the beginning. And even our latest communities, such as EIT Food, right away joined a lot of these activities as well.
Thank you, Martin. We had a couple of hands over here. Sorry, that's not so great to see from here. I saw one here, and yeah.
I think there was one, the lady there.
Good morning, all. Regarding the partners, it's acceptable non-European partners.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Regarding the partners, if it's acceptable non-European partners.
Okay, acceptable to have non-European partners?
Yes, yes, they are acceptable. If you look at the eligibility criteria, 1/3 of the partners in the initial set of the consortium, up to 50, may come up of the EU.
Okay, thank you. There was a lady, yep, there was a lady over here. Thank you.
Hello, Barbara Tan, University of Antwerp. I have a question for David Tas about the co-financing in cash. Can you explain how much it is? Is it yearly? And also, can it also be cash for personal costs for the management team?
Okay, so the co-financing is linked to the funding of the added value activities, which is supported by an EIT grant. According to our according to our regulation, the financing can be up to 100%. However, we set a funding rate annually in the grant agreement, let's say 80%. Practice shows that it's around 80%, and according to the nowadays, and in line with the financial sustainability principles, it shall gradually decrease. How this is split between the different cost types, the innovation communities are implementing their activities, they incur costs in relation to the implementation activities, and then they report the cost. Once the costs are approved as eligible, then the EIT will reimburse in line with the reimbursement rates, let's say 80%. So obviously the remaining 20% in my example, which is the co-financing, can fund personal costs, travel costs, subcontractors, according to the eligibility rules of Horizon 2020.
Thank you. Thanks, David. We had a few more hands. We've got one over here and one down here. Could we take the lady at the front here, and then we'll go to the gentleman over there. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Brigitte Hazeven from ESEA, European Sustainable Energy Innovation Alliance, and I have actually two questions. One is regarding EIT service in relation to securing longer-term strategic funding from private and public sources for the knowledge and innovation communities, and how can the EIT help for this? And the second one concerns more the co-funding mechanism you have, the 75%. Is there a limitation for public funding in terms of the competition rules we have in Europe? Can you maybe answer this question, please? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We had two questions there. Can we take the first part around the general EIT service, securing longer-term funding? Can the EIT help with that?
So Martin will take the first, and then David the second part.
Okay, thank you.
So thanks, both are great questions. So on the first one, concerning helping partnerships, innovation communities to get access to further funding beyond the EIT funding, beyond partners' cash co-funding. Indeed, as you could already hear from Torsten, some of the innovation communities are already piloting the ways of setting up the funds. We are doing the same actually for the EIT as a whole. It's currently one of our strategic objectives to set up a growth and impact fund for the EIT community, to bridge out to venture capitals, to bridge out to potential other finance sources. This is in the making currently, but indeed we work together with the innovation communities to help them spur this channel as well.
Thank you.
I think David should answer the second bit.
Yep.
Indeed. So the second question about the funding and linked to the funding model, as it was explained, there is a set of activities, added value activities, which are by large financed by the EIT, and there the co-funding cannot come from other European sources. Nevertheless, the main bulk of the 75% funding will be linked to the complementary activities, which are outside, as explained, these are outside of the EIT funding. This is not funding contributed directly to the innovation communities. However, these are activities implemented by the partners where there's a thematic link and paid from other sources. And there are no limitations. On the contrary, we incentivize to exploit synergies, to look for other even public funding sources, look into other European funding programs. The whole afternoon session will be devoted to that, how synergies can be built into this picture.
And just to round this off with an example, the one I mentioned this morning, Skeleton Technologies, they did receive support from the EIT, but that means EIT funding both from EIT money itself, but also through the partners. But on top of that, EIT also helped them to get access, for example, to an investment from the European Investment Bank, which was part of the external investment, what they attracted. They also got support from the SME instrument, the EIC pilot. So that is, of course, also a good example on how, being part of the EIT community may facilitate access to different types of funding beyond the individual one.
Thank you, Martin.
Could I pick up on one of the things David just mentioned on
Sure.
the synergies part? There's an entire session on the synergies. Synergies and an eye for synergies at the proposal phase is key already. These synergies can occur at different levels. At the funding level, we heard this, but also they can occur at the policy level, at the program level. This is equally important. So not to limit the eye on synergies on the financial aspect, but rather seek synergies and complementarities at European level, at national level, and regional level as well. At the policy, the strategy, and the programming level is equally important. That will fall in place. The funding element will fall in place if there's an early alignment at the policy or program phase already.
That's very helpful. And as you say, we'll pick this up in the afternoon post-lunch with the session there. There was a gentleman over here who had a question. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Javier Lopez from the Technical University of Madrid. My question is for David or perhaps Martin. How are you going to deal with the fact that in 2020, when we will sign, or when you will sign the FPA with these two new kicks, there is no FP9 still accepted or launched. So how much time those FPA will be covered?
Normally, the initial duration of the Framework Partnership Agreement is 7 years. So that's what we expect to do. Yeah.
But you will sign then 7 years without any FP9 defined?
Sorry?
You will sign an agreement of 7 years without having the FP9?
The Framework Partnership Agreement does not cover directly the funding itself. So it is not directly coupled to the decisions on individual funding. Moreover, maybe in 2 years' time, of course, we already have much more detail about how the transition, how the next funding period will work. And of course, if that is known, we will take it into account when we prepare the Framework Partnership Agreement. At the moment, indeed, this is not yet fully available.
To complement, this is not very specific to the newest innovation communities, because we recently signed a framework partnership agreement with EIT Food, which is running from 2018 to the next 7 years, actually. So this is overarching Horizon 2020 and the next framework program. So we do not see any problems with that. We will, of course, ensure a smooth transition to the next framework program.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other? Yeah, can I take this as a final question before we break for lunch? Thank you. There's a mic just coming. Thank you.
Yulia Matskevich.
Could you stand up because it's being filmed? Thank you.
Yulia Matskevich, Brunel University, London. Sorry that my last question is going to be a slightly unpleasant one. Is there any kind of recommendation? What would be the fate of UK partners regarding KICs?
What?
Thank you.
Can you repeat?
Okay. Who do we?
UK partners.
The UK partnerships. What the fate of the UK partnerships in joining?
Okay.
Yeah.
At this moment, as you know, the negotiations are ongoing about the Brexit. So we, at this moment, do not know yet what will be the exact arrangements that will come out of these discussions. At the moment, the current rules apply. They're fully applicable. They're part of EU, part of Horizon 2020. So that's all clear. We cannot speculate on the outcome of this, and we'll have to adjust once this is available.